Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Seidel, True in Love, here with your AEW Dynamite review for April 28th, 2021. Before I get into the review, I have a few things to go over as far as Kenny Omega, and in 2 weeks, we got an interesting championship match. As for those wondering about the Forbidden Door, is slowly creeping up again. So, as you may have noticed, wearing Pitch jersey, not my AEW shirt. Yes, this is AEW review, but today's the NFL draft, or first night of the NFL draft. So getting in the form for that, but today talking about the review. So first, talk about Kenny Omega. So Kenny Omega, AEW World Champion, now is the Impact World Champion as well. As you may or may not have heard, over the weekend, Sunday night, was Rebellion for Impact in the main event. Title for title, Rich Swann, the Impact World Champion, versus Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion. You know Kenny Omega wasn't losing that matchup as he begins his collection, as he has said, of championships, and took another step forward as far as that moniker is concerned on Sunday night, and was a quality match, quality match with Rich Swann, in which Mauro Ranallo, yes, Mauro Ranallo, the famous commentator or former commentator of NXT, was brought in to call the match of Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann, giving that extra feel, that extra importance of this title for title matchup, and add that extra bump it needed that NXT is lacking with their commentary team. And it had, and credit to Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown. They've done a good job as the new commentary team for Impact since they moved off Josh Matthews and Madison Rayne. But the added importance of Mauro Ranallo added to the match and the overall feel of Kenny Omega and Rich Swann. So that was a good element. Meaning that eventually we could see Mauro Ranallo on Dynamite, soon, or a pay-per-view soon enough. But that was a good element. And also in 2 weeks, so we know that Blood Guts is next week between the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. However, in 2 weeks, for those wondering about that Forbidden Door, once again, has creeped open as Jon Moxley, who's the current IWGP United States Champion for New Japan, will defend. We will get an IWGP United States Championship match in 2 weeks versus Yuji Nagata. Now, I follow New Japan Pro Wrestling every once in a while when something big comes up. I don't follow it a ton, but I know Jeff Cobb, Ospreay, Okada, Evo, uh, Tanahashi, Ibushi, etc. But I don't cover a lot. So I don't know much about Nagata. However, should be interesting because for definitely American fans, I haven't figured out if he's fought on U.S. soil before, but this will definitely be a good welcoming to AEW for Nagata, as well as once again the IWGP United States Championship. So now getting into a review after getting that out of the way. AEW Dynamite was a very good show. Things flowed well. We got the parlay. We got some good matches, obviously, with the Bucks versus Seidel brothers. We had Hangman versus Brian Cage. We had Darby Allin versus 10 for the TNT Championship. Overall, good flow of the show. And we also have a match also set up as well for next week. So at first, it was auditioned for Blood Guts be a one-match event. However, apparently, we have another match kind of preluding to that match next week at Blood Guts. We got Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa. So, nice little prelude match. Obviously, yeah, Nakazawa, give or take with him, but it's nice to add space and it continues to build the storyline. I mean, but I'll get into it in a bit. So, the show started off with Hangman, Adam Page versus Brian Cage. This was a solid start to start the show. Now, Hangman has obviously been touted as the number one ranked contender for a few weeks now. I was wondering because it may be too soon to do Hangman versus Kenny Omega. Now I think they realize this coming in this match, and the outcome was unexpected, but at the same time, sort of expected. So, Hangman was ambushed by Team Taz during his entrance to start, but the Dark Order came out and kind of evened the odds, took care of the rest of Team Taz, and it was 1-1 from there. So Cage landed a powerbomb on Hangman on the ramp before the bell, and that played into the ending of the match. So then they get into the ring. Cage keeps up the attack on Hangman to start the match. And then Taz was again at ringside because his boy Brian Cage. But was a short match, but a good match. So Hangman took advantage back, hit a dive over the top rope, landed some offense, and then getting towards the end of the match, Page went for the buckshot lariat, but was countered by Brian Cage into a beautiful F5. They didn't say it, but was an F5 for a 2 count. And then Cage landed a buckle bomb, and then a drill claw for the surprise victory by Cage for the win. So Brian Cage beats the number 1 ranked Hangman. So now, to what I was saying earlier in the show or in the episode, that Hangman was the number 1 ranked competitor for the last few weeks, and it seemed like they may be risking fast tracking him to Kenny Omega for Double or Nothing. And with this loss, it's good because A, Team Taz was kind of in the dust, and this kind of gives more momentum back for Team Taz, and it's a solid win for Brian Cage. So instead, Hangman can take a step back, and then they can let breathe now for Hangman, and as he works his way back up to, whether it's at All Out or Full Gear, I definitely see Hangman taking title off Kenny Omega, but we gotta let that breathe. Now, as I said, good for Brian Cage. Now letting this digest, I'm a little worried because Christian Cage is feuding with Team Taz. He's beaten Will Hobbs. He brung up Ricky Starks later in the show, and I'm kind of worried that hopefully this is not true, but maybe they gave Brian Cage this win because Christian Cage is feuding Team Taz, and they may have Christian Cage beat Brian Cage, and he ends up getting a title shot against Kenny Omega. Now, I hope that doesn't happen, and we'll see with the weeks to come, but good opening match for the length it went, and good win for Brian Cage. So it was short, but we saw the Elite in their limo. So we kind of see that the Young Bucks are taking on that more heel-like nature. As in, we saw them laid back in their looks. And there was a camera set up. And Kenny Omega talked about how eventually the gold will follow them everywhere they go. And they still blame Kingston and Moxley for potentially trying to take their lives last week. And then, like last week, we heard a horn, but then the driver of the limo, he rolled down the window and he said, "Sorry, I hit the wrong button." So that gave Luke Gallows a mini heart attack. But still, okay. And so next, we got the Young Bucks versus the Seidel brothers. Now, what I said last week was the Young Bucks, a little changes, cutting off the tassels, uh, their moves inside the ring uh, are looking more heel-like, and in this case, it generated more, or they look more like heels because last week they wore the white, this week they wore the all black. They didn't have any tassels, and when they did the Young Bucks pose in the ring, the confetti and the streamers came in the ring, so nice little touch. And what we saw in the match for Seidel brothers, good match. We know they're again adding or embracing more the heel part of the Young Bucks. So the Seidel brothers had some good offense to start, uh, changing in and out, and a weird spot in the middle of the match where Nick Jackson was out in the middle of the ring, and Matt Jackson came in and switched, and the referee looked distracted and confused. He didn't know what was going on. So, a little strangeness because they don't really look. I mean, the hair is a little similar, but other than that, they don't really look alike. So, something that I didn't like about the match. So, it is what it is. So, they had Matt Seidel up for the Meltzer driver, but he countered, hit Meteora for a near fall, and took some quick covers on Matt Jackson. And then, because the new Mortal Kombat movie came out the other day, Matt Jackson channeled his inner Johnny Cage. And what I mean by that is, as you can see in the original Mortal Kombat movie back in that was made in 95, and if you played Mortal Kombat 11, which I have, you'll see in the story where once again Johnny Cage hits that split slow blow. Matt Jackson his splits and low blow on Mike Seidel when the referee was distracted. And they hit the BT, or they hit a super kick party, hit a super kick to Matt, and then hit the BT trigger for the win. Good match. Afterwards, Brandon Cutler, who was there ringside, he sprayed them with cold spray and gave them ice packs. So another heel tendency, I guess. And then the SCU then came out. Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, they brought up how they made the promise that in December, if they ever lost as a tag team again, that would be their last time as a team. And they're still a team. They're undefeated in 2021, and they're gunning for the Young Bucks. They don't recognize this new attitude, and soon enough, when it's their time, they'll take those belts off the Young Bucks and make this place better than it is with them. So, good promo by SCU. They're the number one ranked contenders. Perhaps we see at Double or Nothing be a solid match. SCU, though, I don't think would be winning the match. So, interesting how that story would be featured in, because that storyline of if SCU loses, it'll be their last time as a team. So we'll see. But it would be a good match, I would say, for Double or Nothing. So then we had Pentagon versus Orange Cassidy. Interesting match, because Pentagon beat Trent last week in a good match. Cassidy, they know it is number 2 in the rankings. So, well, interesting dynamic. Although Orange Cassidy is not the same without a live crowd. But this is a good match. But I have to say, Alex Abrahantes, or whatever his name is, I can't get into. He's just not good. The way he's look and the way he's everything is just not doing it. They need, whether it's State of Trinidad or someone else, to be his manager for Pentagon. It's just not working. But nonetheless, this is an okay match. So the match started off with, Pentagon doing his pre-match shenanigans with taking off his glove, and then instead of throwing it to the ref, which he sometimes does, or to his opponent, he threw it to the crowd that was at ringside, but Abrahantes caught it, and Orange Cassidy followed up with nonchalantly throwing his glasses at Trent, and Trent failed to catch him. So then, after the shenanigans were out of the way, the match was pretty good. So Cassidy went for a tilt-a-whirl DT, but good counter by Penta into a brainbuster for a near fall. Then went for a tilt, or I would say pump handle driver. So I put landing Cassidy on his head for a 2 count. Then Penta hit a destroyer, which looked brutal as always. But Cassidy no-sold it, and right after hit a beach break and went for the cover, but Penta's shoulder was up, so they were both lying on the mat, now selling the effects. Abrahantes got on the apron, trying to distract Cassidy. See, I don't get it. Last week, he talked trash about Trent's mom. This was a little logic gap in the match, but so Abrahantes and Trent were both at ringside. They were both in the corners of Cassidy and Penta. Last week, Abrahantes talked trash about Trent's mom, and now Trent is there. And he doesn't do anything until Abrahantes brings up Trent's mom again and tries to talk trash about Cassidy. And Cassidy grabs Abrahantes, throws him in the ring, and chaos. Trent's got Abrahantes. Orange Cassidy had the microphone while the referee was distracted. Hit the orange punch with the microphone on Penta, and it pins him 1, 2, 3 for the win. Orange Cassidy gets the win over Penta after some weird shenanigans. It's not doing it for me. Penta needs a new manager. As for Cassidy, I mean, where does he go? He's kind of floating around. So I'm curious because he was number 2 coming in this match. And we don't really know who Kenny Omega is going to face for the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing. And we're less than a month away, so I don't know, we'll see. But perhaps because Cassidy number 2 and Hangman lost earlier, so perhaps Cassidy gets more wins. I don't know. But that's a thought. Orange Cassidy versus Kenny Omega. Not be a bad match, I would say. So then we had the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle Parlay. I'm a little curious why this didn't end the show, because this is kind of the most important thing on the show. But it was a really good segment. So Tony Schiavone was in the ring. He introduced the Pinnacle and then the Inner Circle. They lined up across each other inside the ring, and they were going to do a coin toss to decide who gets the man advantage at Blood and Guts. So Tony Schiavone explained the rules, how like War Games, there's going to be 2 men starting from each side, and there will be a 5-minute period, and the members of each team will alternate until all 10 competitors are in the match, and then it's submission or surrender in the match. So Shawn Spears took the microphone and cut a really good promo, a surprising, because I didn't expect him to speak. And he cut a solid promo on the Inner Circle, saying when he looks across from him that he doesn't see the same, whereas he looks at his family, he sees a family that is willing to die for each other. And with the Inner Circle, he doesn't see the same. And he talked about Sammy, saying, "Are you ready for this? When was the last time you had a match?" So Sammy was goofing off, and then Spears said, "Look at me." And he says that, and he pointed at Jericho. He said, "That man is leading you into some really deep waters. And then when it comes next week, I'll be stepping on your head when you drown." So, hand the microphone back to Shivani, and then Sammy Guevara took the microphone from Tony Schiavone. He says, "Spears, really? I don't believe you." Says, "Ever since you've been in AEW, Spears, you've been a failure." And off the top of my head, you were a failure where you used to work too. Ty Dillinger, yes, they didn't push him right. I will say that. So then Guevara said, "You guys want the man advantage, you can have it." So he says it doesn't matter if it's 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1. He'll take on the popcorn guy for all he cares. So right off the bat, the Pinnacle kind of expected to get the man advantage and for Blood Guts. And then Cash Wheeler took the microphone and he said, please to Santana Ortiz, please don't bring this side of Santana Ortiz, because there are Chris Jericho lapdogs. Because if you do, you guys are walking out. So then Dax got the microphone and he said, "Ortiz, I know you got a son at home, and Santana, you got a beautiful baby daughter at home," which riled up Santana. And he said he's come to wits that Blood Guts may change and shorten at least one of their careers and their lives. So Dax said he's prepared to die. So he said to Santana Ortiz, "Next week, I want you guys to come to grits with your family. Hug them real tight, embrace them real tight, because it may be the last time you see them." So Santana was all riled up. Ortiz had the microphone. He said, "Careful, man. You know what they're doing." So Santana got the microphone, said how next week they'll all be locked up. Yes, FTR, do you guys know what it's like to be locked up? No? what we do. And he said that next week he'll let his fist do the talking. So then MJF got a microphone and he talked about whoa, let's calm down, act like gentlemen. So then he talked about Jericho. He told Jericho thank you. Talked about how Jericho's wanting a thank you, probably from him. And he praised Jericho, talked about how there would be no AEW without Jericho. Said he brought the name value, he brought the lapsed fan that probably got away from pro wrestling but brought him back to AEW. And says he'll take Jericho's crown and take his spot. And then Jericho took the microphone and really good promo. Better than last week. Jericho called MJF an entitled prick. And said to MJF, how dare you? You can't take someone's spot just because you want it. Says you have to earn it. Says, yes, MJF was talking about how it was curtain jerking for WCW when he was 25 years old. Yes, because by then he was already selling out arenas in Japan, Germany, Mexico, and brought him experience, respect, and brought him to who he is today. And then Jericho said, you want my spot? One way to earn it is next week beat us at Blood Guts. And then said, you aren't going to beat us at Blood Guts. Then totally kind of went in, looked like he was going to back MJF away. And he said, Jericho said, no, I'm not going to cut my promo off. And they said that when they're done and they beat them, stand over them and sip on them like the pile of crap they are, they're going to drag their feet on the concrete, look at the feet, and realize what spot, the only spot, he deserves. So Jericho ended, if 1969 was the summer of love, that 2021 will be summer of violence for the Pinnacle, and that next week, summer starts early. Very good promo by Jericho, as I know, an upgrade over his lackadaisical kind of promo last week. Better this week. Exciting parlay. We got minced words from basically everyone except Wardlow and Hager. I mean, Wardlow kind of got in his stuff last week. So, but this exciting war parlay and just can't wait for the matchup next week. See how it goes down. And I hope, because I looked up the allowance or capacity for fans at Daly's Place, said something like 5,500. I just hope that, because this is a match that really needs that really deserves more fans in attendance than what is at Dale's place. So we'll see how it goes out next week, but should be interesting. So then we had Michael Nakazawa, and this alluded to the match between the four that I know that was added to next week. So Michael Nakazawa, he was in the middle of the ring with a laptop on a chair. Then we heard Eddie Kingston's music play, and they know it on commentary how he wants Omega. So instead, Omega tried out Nakazawa. So Kingston said "Oh yeah, here Nakazawa, I want you. This is sports entertainment shit." That's little jab to WWE. Yeah, it's true. So he called out Omega. So then Omega and Callis came out of the tunnel, and Nakazawa hit Kingston from behind with the laptop a couple times. Kingston got the advantage back, and then Omega tried to so Kingston looked like he was going to break Nakazawa's ankle, and Omega said he knows what he signed up for. So they tried to send out Brandon Cutler as well, and Cutler came out flying through the tunnel, weird fashion. And the next thing you know, it's Jon Moxley come out and attack Kenny Omega. The tables have turned, and then so Moxley and Kingston beat up on Omega. They got his leg in the precarious position, and they looked like they were about to break his ankle, but then Don Callis tries to reason with them, and Moxley talked about how they want a tag team match between them versus Omega and Nakazawa. So match was made for next week. Like I said, to let some time breathe between the 2 hours between that and Blood and Guts. So here's what it is. I mean, clearly we know who's going to be taking the pin. Clearly. But I guess it's a way to have some breathing room on the show. So then we have Penelope Ford versus Kris Statlander. This is okay, kind of filler. First time we really saw Penelope Ford since the Arcade Anarchy, when Statlander drove her through the hockey table. But good for what it was. Statlander looks great. Ford, the best thing about Kip Sabian these days is Penelope Ford. So there was that. So Orange Cassidy was also ringside. So Statlander hit one with the Big Bang Theory symbol. There's that. Statlander gets another win. So good for her. I'm not going to go over the Factory vs. Nightmare Family. That was boring to me. I missed it. I don't care. If you want to look it up, do so. I just don't care. Not invested. So then we got to the main event. Darby Allin vs. 10 for the TNT Championship. This added to another challenge made to Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. Sting was again ringside. The Dark Order, of course, for 10. He talked about briefly before the bell how much it would mean for him to bring the title back to the Dark Order for Brody Lee. So, nice little tribute to Brody Lee. But kind of knew how this match was going to go. Power of 10 versus Darby Allin, who's like the crash test dummy. So 10 got some big offense in, hit a one-arm powerbomb, a spine buster. 10 looks, he is definitely the most impressive, I would say, of the Dark Order. I mean, John Silver is definitely the one that gets most over because of his silliness and whatnot. But the breakout star, besides the young gun, really, is 10, I would say. So then Darby hit a senton later in the match off the top rope onto 10 and 5, aka Alex Allen Angels. Kind of scary spot because of how close he was to the guardrail and the barricade. So at the end of the match, 10 locked in a full Nelson on Darby. And then Darby with the turnbuckle spot rolled up 10 for the win. Darby retains. Good match. Afterwards, good spot. Darby held up the armband that said Brody. Good moment. Again, tribute to Brody Lee. And then afterwards, Ethan Page came out with Scorpio Sky to. I mean, it's just odd with these two, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. They attack Darby and Sting. And then Lance Archer comes out and the Dark Order, 10 intervenes to save them. So the way this scene is just, I mean, I still think Lance Archer is going to be the one to take the title off Darby, but we'll see. It's just weird how this whole situation is unfolding with Darby, Archer, Ethan Page, and Scorpio Sky. It's just weird, but we'll see in the coming weeks. Anyway, guys, that's the show for y'all. Really good episode of Dynamite. Little nicks here and there, but overall a good show. So thank you all. I'll be back Monday with sports topics as well as next week another review for AEW. But thank you all. If you're new to the podcast, like and subscribe. Thank you all. Be safe and peace.